There's one fact you never hide, and that's your religion
Yes.
and how spiritual you are. At the same time, I see your CV and the people you work with. I'm like, she's so heavy into politics and
Yes.
government. How do you balance
I
these
know
two?
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, we know our governments in
Yes.
this continent. Unfortunately,
Everyone is like, why do we work in government?
Yes.
Yet there's corruption.
Yeah.
It's my work to show people that you can be in government and be clean. I've never taken a bribe. I've worked in the highest offices where actually, even just for people to meet my boss, people are willing to pay $10,000 and upwards. People just desert you, which is good, because I've come to realize every leader in their lives must go through a place where God takes away everything
Right.
that is not of Him and takes you through a relearning. Every human being carries a dimension of God, and that is what we call purpose.
Classmates, karibuni sana to another class. My goodness, today's lecturer. But first of all, I just want to thank Longonot Place for this amazing suit that they've given us to shoot our conversations in. Thank you so much, Longonot Place. This place is amazing. If you have time, just come out, check out the rooms, check out their rates. Ni watu amazing sana. Also, Tasemaji, big up to Philip Productions who are sponsoring this particular conversation. Check out their website. We have films there that we sell. We have merchandise, Jibambeni Kabisa. Check it out. And to the conversation today. So our teacher today, our lecturer is, she started out as a business reporter, then transitioned to a business news anchor, and then she opened her own PR and communications firm, and she has worked with the who is who on this continent. I'm talking presidents, I'm talking governments. My friend, atatupe your CV, atatupatia your CV, and I am so excited. She's a Diageo Business Award winner, and she writes for the Forbes. She identifies as a Pan-Africanist, and she just loves the Lord. I love that.
Amen.
Yeah, and it's none other than Cynthia Nyamai. How are you?
I'm good.
This is the first time we're meeting.
Yes,
Oh my
and I'm
goodness.
so honored to meet you.
No.
I'm always watching you, stalking you.
Oh my God.
Hata please unieke kwa movie moja. I'm always like, utanieka kwa movie lini?
Ni-
Naweza act. Umeniona
Unaweza?
TikTok?
Oh, okay.
Hey, abu niangalie TikTok.
Nikuangalia TikTok.
Utaona naweza
Lakini
act.
sinema zangu
Tafadhali,
saa
nipe
zingine-
kazi.
sinema zangu saa zingine watu wa kanisa wanaweza ogopa kufanya. How open are you?
Watu wa kanisa huwa wamekwa kwa box sana. Watu wa kanisa can be very open. Because hatutaki religion.
Yeah.
Kanisa, it's about having a relationship with God.
Right.
And being very practical. So
Right.
I'm not religious.
Okay.
But I have a relationship with God.
Right.
And I follow what God asks me to do and what the Bible tells me. But mimi si religious. So tunaweza discuss.
I love the fact that umenipeleka huko, because that was one thing at the top of my head.
Yes.
Because I follow you, man, and you're always talking about
You follow me.
yes.
Yes.
And yes, there's one fact you never hide, and that's your religion and how spiritual you are. At the same time, I see your CV and the people you work with. I'm like, she's so heavy into politics and government. How do you balance these two?
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, we know our governments in this continent. Unfortunately.
Everyone is like, why do we work in government?
Yes.
Yet there's corruption.
Yeah.
And I think there are things sometimes in life you can't run away from.
Right.
It's your call, so you can't run away from them. Even when I try. To be honest, I try to run away from government. I'm like, I'm done.
Right.
But those are the doors that open for me and open so easily.
Right.
In fact, like the other day, I was just in Nigeria in January. I was there for 2 months. And by the time I was getting to the airport, I had 2 different government offices that were waiting for me and
Right.
had sent a car. In fact, I had to like travel one in one car, and then a suitcase was in another car, just to make
Wow.
sure that I don't offend government protocol. So I can't run away from it, but also I can't run away from the fact that I love God,
Yeah.
and we have a relationship.
Right.
And I've come to learn that people have different callings, and everyone calling is so peculiar and different, because even when God is explaining to us our callings, he does not call for a large call at let's call everybody. I want to explain to you what your call is. It's a personal journey that he takes you through, and sometimes people might not understand your call, but you come to realize that then you're the one who is called to also make those two worlds make sense.
Right.
It's my work to show people that you can be in government and be clean. I've never taken a bribe. I've worked in the highest offices where actually even just for people to meet my boss, people are willing to pay $10,000 and upwards.
Wow.
But I have never, and people come to me and say, we want to see you because we've been told that you don't ask for bribes and you can work with us without any corruption.
Yeah.
So my work then is to show that yes, it's possible to have a walk with your walk with God and still work in government and be clean, and even show people the journey, because sometimes there's a heavy price to pay.
You were just talking about what you usually go through, working with governments. Give us a story, your favorite, your hardest.
My hardest.
Yeah.
Wow. I think I tell it so many times that people one day will tell me, okay, Cynthia, that's enough. But I think my hardest, and what made me understand my call in life, even I struggled when I was like, God, why do you only open doors for me in government? Why do I find myself only in every time an opening that comes, it's in government? And sometimes, like, I remember when I went to Uganda, I thought it would be a 3 months. And then also you get in and you find different governments are so, the countries are so different, and governments are so different. And you assume that every country is as open and things just run smoothly, like in Kenya. Kenya, we are very open in some way that is good, and in some ways, when I lived in Uganda, I was like, I think there's some things I still like about Uganda, makes the country much more safe. But then I landed in Uganda. I just thought I would be there for 3 months. I ended up being there for 4 years. I ended up, yes. In fact, I remember I was there on a Sunday. I remember I landed on a Sunday. Obama was leaving the country, and they were like, don't worry, we will make sure you'll pass through your airport and come to Uganda. And I had my meeting finished, I think it was starting at around 1 a.m. So I was like, okay, and tomorrow I'm going back to Kenya. I've finished my meeting. And then they were like, no, actually, you've passed the interview and work starts tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't even have clothes. And they're like, okay, you'll just have to buy clothes. And then because the work is urgent. And I ended up spending 4 years, and I ended up my immediate boss. So I worked for the party, NRM.
Right.
It was really good. I enjoyed it, got paid for it. And then later they were like, could you also now continue working with the government and through police? The head of police then was like the second most powerful person and was literally running the government. So I was under him. And then started working and learning how countries are so different, how governments are so different. I think it was also good discipline to just work with. My boss was a general of the army and in the police, so I learned the discipline of the army. They sort of really made me soldier-like and have this really high discipline. There are things that I really admire about Uganda, and that they taught me. But then unfortunately my boss lost his job. There was an announcement from the president, and then people in my office just started getting fired, arrested every night. So you sleep not knowing, will I will I be arrested? And people now keep a distance. And remember, by this time I was used to, because of working in government, I was used to life a certain way, because I the same thing in Nigeria. I was working in government, with government, and so you're used to, and even in Kenya worked with TNA, so you're used. I remember one time when I started working with TNA, I just had a meeting with some guys, and they said, okay, now you have to look into your security. These are the things. So you begin to get used to things like having security roads opened for you, traveling with government cars, a VIP at the airport, government, use the government VIP. Life is smoother. And some things are just a part of you. So in Uganda, suddenly all my security is taken that I was used to. And then you wake up and you're like, how do guys walk around without security? Like, it sounds, I think that's when I realized how lost I was, and how my identity had become my job and the things that I had. And that I then had to quickly relearn who is Cynthia and what is my purpose. And it was an interesting journey, because that is when, even as much as I would tell people, yes, I'm born again, I was more religious. And that's why I'm like, I'm not religious. I would go to church on Sunday, give sadaka, give tithe, do all the things that look Christian, but I didn't have that deep relationship with God. I would pray every day, but probably 5 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes here and there when I'm in trouble and I urgently need his help, 5 minutes at night, and I say amen when I wake up in the morning because I fell asleep in the middle of my sleep.
Right.
But here I am now in a situation where all my security as a human being is taken. Everything that I thought I was powerful. I thought I had everything in control. But these are man-made things that I acquired according to man's way. And things acquired according to man's way are not permanent. And so I had to go back and learn who is Cynthia. And and I went into long periods of prayer and fasting and just find kulikuwa kumeumana.
No, well, the stories we hear from Uganda.
Kulikuwa kumeumana. And you know, and everybody now, people have stopped calling you. By the way, when you get in trouble, your call is no longer ringing, your phone. I used to have 2 phones even, because the calls are too much. When people are coming to do business in Uganda, they are calling you and so on. My phone stopped ringing. In fact, I remember one time I was in the newspaper headlines. A Kenyan who was meant to be a friend, instead of telling me, Pole, how can we help, sends me and says, you need to stop these stories. What is this? And I'm like, this is out of my control. So people just desert you, which is good, because I've come to realize every leader in their lives must go through a place where God takes away everything that is not of him and takes you through a relearning. Some people lose their jobs and they think, oh, God hates me. Actually, he's preparing you for the next level. So look at the friends who you will lose at that time. They don't deserve to go with you to the next higher level. And if you accept that journey, you will always go to a higher, much higher level. And so mine was a long journey. And remember, because I had been asked that at that time when I started working to pay a bribe to be able to earn my money from the Uganda police, and I said no. So for a few years, I was not earning any salary. So here I am. My boss has been fired. I have not been earning a salary, so the business is actually not doing very well. I'm broke. I can't go home. People are being arrested, and it's the government arresting. So you're in a fix. So I had to face God. It's the most humbling time to open your fridge and voila, the fridge is empty. You're like, let me even switch it off.
Wow.
to be so used to power, extreme power.
Yeah.
Such countries, if you're in a powerful position, you
extreme.
enjoy extreme power. And Nigeria was the same thing.
Yeah.
You enjoy extreme power. And now to actually having nothing, to even walk around and you're like, oh my goodness, how is life without all this power? But then I started having a relationship with God, and I used to sit at the balcony. Uganda is very beautiful. So I used to stay at a place on top of a hill, and I would sit at the balcony and look at the hills around in a place called Muyanga, extremely beautiful. And we would have breakfast with God. And have conversations. He'd be like, let me buy you coffee and let's talk. And so we started talking, and I started understanding who God is, and then who I am in God, my purpose. And I started understanding the reason why I was working in governments is because everybody has a call in their life. Every human being carries a dimension of God, and that is what we call purpose.
Right.
That dimension is a dimension of God, that you carry a unique dimension of God. So everyone you see on the streets, whether they are sweeping the streets, whether they are driving a VX, give them the same kind of attention and respect, because every human being is carrying a dimension of God. And without them, there is a dimension of God the world will never experience without them. And that's why even I find the fight between men and women to be a very funny one, because women carry a certain dimension of God.
Yeah.
Men carry a certain dimension. What makes it powerful is that when a man and a woman come together, or men and women come together, and we see God in a complete version. So we need each other in this world every day, and we need to understand we don't need to compete. What Phil can do, I can never do. I should actually enjoy and learn from him, because he's the only person in this world God gave that dimension of him to carry. And so mine is to I've been called for governments. I have been called to help set up governments. That is my call, and nobody can take it away from me. Nobody can compete with me. And as much as I am also a practicing Christian, and even sometimes people call me pastor, but my call is not a pastor, I have to find a way to merge those two and bring God into government, and also in the church help people understand the importance of government and how things should be done correctly.
Were you always into politics growing up as a child?
Yes. So my friends were politicians even when I was a child. I remember at a young age, I used to have a friend, he was an MP, his name was John Keane. And so we would sit, because I was into multi-party. From a young age, I used to watch things like CNN. My mom had to buy another TV. So because when the others were watching cartoons, I couldn't. It was so boring. I wanted to watch CNN. I wanted to those days KTN would just have CNN throughout. So I wanted to watch CNN. I used to watch documentaries on people like JF Kennedy. I remember my mom buying me books on speeches of different politicians. That is what I liked.
So it actually, what you're saying about everyone having their own dimension actually makes sense. So you were destined for this.
Exactly.
Because if you're from a young kid, instead of enjoying cartoons, you're enjoying CNN news.
Yes.
Wow.
And I used to read the newspaper.
Yeah.
I used to watch news.
Right.
And then after the politics, I'm bored. So even our children right now, if you look at them carefully and spend time with them, you will begin to see the call in their life. It's something God has given you. And if you go outside it, you will be unhappy. You're wasting time. And never judge people. I even say, even if we are in, I would always, when I'm in government, I always tell people, don't look at the opposition side with hate.
Right.
Be understanding. That's their call. They have been called to put you on check.
Yeah.
Treat them with respect.
Right.
And allow them to air their grievances.
Right.
We have to come to an understanding that everyone has a call, and you have no right to begin to tell me what my call is and
Right
what
or
my call is not. And then sometimes you might find people who also don't understand their call yet.
Yeah.
But they're doing it the wrong way, and it's affecting you. Maybe your work is to now show them, okay, I agree, even in government, we need opposition to put us in check.
Right.
I believe all governments should have opposition.
Oh, absolutely.
To put people in check. But even when they are not doing it properly, it's your work to sit with them and say, I respect what you do. I think it is very important. And there is a way we can work together. And so that's one thing that has, from the point now I started understanding my life and how God looks at me, it helped me also now begin to understand people around me and to appreciate. I think a lot of times in life there's strife because we don't even know who we are, what we bring to the table. Once you understand, you're comfortable. Even if people come and shout and say, whatever about, I'm attacked a lot on social media. It doesn't really bother me. I know my call, and I will stand by my call until the day I die. Because human beings didn't call me, God called me.
Right.
So I'm very comfortable, and I think it also makes me take bigger risks, even in business. Because I know this is my call, and if God called me, he will back me up.
Kwa hivyo umesema tusikubali mambo ya handshake. Anyway,
hatutaki handshake.
Opposition ni muhimu.
I'm very vocal about political things. I'm very clear. We don't want handshake. And let me tell you something. Africa is at a point where we need to understand the times we are in. The issue right now in Kenya is we are looking at it in a very small way. The issue is not about two men, President Ruto and opposition of Raila, who I respect. That they are not the issue as Africans. Let's forget about politicians. Let us look at what is going on in Africa. People are walking away from the dollar. Yesterday we saw Finland make a big decision and join NATO. It tells us Russia is going to react, and they'll get worse even when it comes to Ukraine. Ukraine has been feeding the world. This is the time for us as Africans to stop watching news like spectators and see the opportunities. There is a shift happening in the US. Who is going to take that position that US had? Why can't it be Africa? So as an African, by the my maandamano, if we want to be clear about things, our issue right now should not be about just maandamano. Our issue is, how is Kenya going to feed the world because now Ukraine is in a crisis? How is Africa, and you know the world is so big, it would be better if we do it as Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, or the EAC coming together, and business people coming together and feeding the world. I think that's where the youth right now, and I'm glad there's a man who I listen to on TikTok. It's called Tumedi. I listened to him. It looks like you know him. There's Tumedi. There are a number of young people. And when I'm listening to them, they are talking about these issues. And I've been telling politicians, you better wake up. These young people are not the young people you people were ruling 10 years ago, 15 years ago. COVID has changed them. They are much more educated. They are not into tribalism and the strategies that politicians used to use issues before. They can see what's going on around the world. They want a piece of it.
Yeah.
And they can see that Africa was colonized. And until today, we have practices of colonialism
for sure.
deeply rooted in
sure.
Africa.
Right.
It is now our time to actually uproot those systems and put in new systems that will serve Africa.
Right.
So hii mambo ya siasa ndogo ndogo tunadanganya. You know, one thing people don't realize, what made maandamana powerful is the people.
Oh, yeah.
What made opposition not even take certain positions and go overboard is because they also know the president has the people.
Yeah.
So it is the people with the power.
Yeah.
It is the people who now must make a move and decide things in Africa will be different. And that's why for me, even when I teach, like I'm teaching the book of Exodus right now.
Right.
And in Exodus 1, I've been teaching how we see Pharaoh was scared of the children of Israel because they said, these people are multiplying.
Yeah.
There are so many. They are so powerful. They can take over Egypt. And he was so scared of them. So he came up with a system that would colonize the children of Israel. And every time in society, we'll find that where the weaker ones begin to get scared, they find a system to rule the stronger ones.
Yeah.
It makes no sense that Africa is still colonized
Nope.
because we are the ones with the resources. We are the ones who actually run governments all over the world. And and to be honest, the true fight that eventually we are going to see among the superpowers is who will be able to control Africa.
Yes. Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's why China has been here.
Yes.
Because they want to make sure we will control. Because whoever will control Africa will run the world.
Oh, yeah.
So why can't it be that Africans then control Africa and we run the world?
With the whole BRICS situation,
Exactly.
that won't help because South Africa is part of it.
South Africa is part of it. We did hear the president even a few weeks hint and say, people get rid of your dollars.
Yes, he did.
That is a shift. And I kind of feel like we noticed there was a time where maandamano was happening in Kenya, South Africa, and I was like, someone is doing something, and even north of Africa, and even they had wanted it in Nigeria. Someone is doing something to shift us Africans from the real issues. There are real issues going on. Even the issue of Trump is not the real issue.
No.
There are serious issues, shifts that are happening. That move that we saw with Finland joining NATO yesterday is going to start something that I'm even afraid to say what it is, but it is going to bring a shaking never seen before. And we are going to begin to understand as a world who is the real superpower. We are about to see that. And so Africa should then also understand who is the real superpower. If everybody wants to do business with Africa, people are moving. I saw today in the newspaper, there is a US company that wants to start a pyrethrum company here in Kenya, starting up the old businesses that we shut down.
Yes.
If we can really wake up and understand our position, we will understand Africa is the real superpower.
So where's the disconnect usually? Because a lot of the guys in government, when you talk to them one-on-one, they're brilliant.
I know.
They are brilliant. And then they get to that position and...
something happens.
What usually happens?
Let me tell you what happens.
Yeah.
It's the same thing I said called systems. Government have systems. Let me tell you, in Africa, a lot of presidents, even around the world, a lot of presidents you see sitting in power are not the real rulers of those countries. There are systems that decide who will be president. These stories we are always being told of democracy. There is no democracy. There has never been. Read even the Bible. Where do you see democracy? Never happened. And even God was telling people, I want you to have, I will choose for you the leaders. But man thinks, we always think we are clever. There is no democracy. There are certain systems of of very wealthy men. Even when I work in political campaigns,
Yeah.
I am not paid by somebody, a candidate. Rarely am I paid by the candidate. I am paid by other men who want that candidate to sit in power. And sometimes I am taken to that candidate and told my Kamba accent is coming up.
It's all right.
And they are told, Cynthia will be working with you, and we are the ones who are paying Cynthia. And they make sure once you're in power, then this system continues to work. People say, let's fight corruption. What they don't understand is when a politician gets into that office, they find a system that has been there even before they were born.
Yeah.
And then even when they try to talk, because I've tried to fight corruption, when you try to talk and fight against that corruption, that's why you see suddenly a politician, there are many stories about them. Suddenly, Mara, there's a story he was seen with a woman, another story that he is stealing, Mara, and you're like, how come suddenly there are stories?
Yeah.
People have just found out some truth about this guy. It's not that. Alishika pahali pabaya, a system, and that system makes sure from the security guard to the top, their people are seated there. And they will always be there. If you talk candidly with guys in government, they'll tell you even some tenders. Mimi, I know someone who was in the Ministry of Health, very excited. They were going to do things different. One day in the evening, someone walks in the office and says, by the way, you're not going to tender this thing the normal way. This is our tender even before you were born. So you'll give it to us. If not, and this is where the real problem is. This person told them, have you asked yourself how I have entered your office? And the person had a gun. How I've entered your office armed and late hours because it was past 6.
Yeah.
And then the person said, have you also asked yourself, how these systems actually work? Because if you don't give me what I want, I will make sure you will be killed, and no, Kenya will never bother about you. So the problem with Kenyans is, or even the world, we never want to do our homework. We just want to read what is in media, believe it. We want to agree with what the West is telling us instead of doing our research. If any politician decides to go against the system comes for them, and the system understands the weaknesses of the people, and they will work on that. They will put stories about you on social media. You will trend. Everybody will believe. Nobody will question. So as a politician, you just learn, let me go with the flow to protect my family, to protect myself, because Kenyans will not fight for me.
You know, Cynthia, some of these things, we read them as conspiracy theories, and we are always told that the people you see in government are not the ones that run the government. They're mechanisms and machines that run the government. And for you to just confirm that, so are we totally powerless against such systems? Because clearly these systems are feeding their own personal interests.
Yes. Exactly. They are there for themselves and never for the people.
Right.
And they feed out of our lack of awareness and also our laziness.
Right.
And to the fact where and that's one thing I say, find your purpose. And when you do, because you cannot give people what you don't have, then you will be able to give your nation what your nation requires. People just read stories, and even when you read it, you're like, this story doesn't make sense. But you want to talk about it and fuel it. And what you don't know is that story that has been shared is meant to shake down a politician who is trying to do the right thing. Right. But you see, as a person, as a Kenyan, you don't want to research. You want to believe. You want to just give, look at even things like COVID. Until today, nobody has ever told the world what COVID is nobody has the answers for COVID.
Yeah.
We quickly believed, we quickly went into our homes, and now we are like, okay, see, we still have COVID. How come people are still walking around and doing? And that's the thing. There's a system that has understood our weakness and knows we are not woke, we are not bothered. We just want to go to school, believe everything we are taught in school, have someone to give us the questions and the answers, tell us we need to go find a job. Then when you get a job, you need to buy mortgage. Then the system enslaves you because you have to work and pay off that mortgage. You have to buy a car, pay for that car, and you're just living a life where you're actually feeding the system, and you cannot walk away from that system because you will lose everything that the system has lied to you is important. Many people, if you ask them, they don't want to lose their job because I have mortgage. To me, I've been told that is important. Who said it? So you can go back to shags and live there. See, they're human beings. You know, that's the thing. I thank God when I went through a very difficult time in my life, I was able to clearly understand my call, what is important for Cynthia and what is not. For a long time, eventually I even sold my car. For a long time, I didn't have a car. It doesn't bother me to use an Uber. And move around and arrive in, I've been to State House using an Uber. And even I was happy, I gave the Uber driver a nice drive to see State House. It doesn't bother me. And I know I will not reach to offices like in State House because of material things I have, but because I understand my purpose and I represent what God wants me to represent. So he will back me up. I don't need cars to back me up. I don't need money to back me up. I've been to places a few years ago when I was not doing very well financially, but I was now woke. I've been to places sitting with several heads of states and I had 0 shillings in my bag, but I was confident because it's not the shillings that make me confident. There are so many stories that the system has taught us that we need to unlearn. Look at even the things we learn in history, even here in Kenya. Nobody tells us about the great men we have had in Africa, the great kings that and queens that we have had in Africa. Nobody tells us those stories. We just believe things we are told that. Imagine even we are asked in exams who discovered Africa. The audacity. Natulikuwa. How are you discovering me? How are you telling me with the area I am living what it should be called? And when we look at those things and to begin to question, it will then educate us on the things that are about to happen in the world. Question so that we arrive at the right answer and not to wake up and find the colonizers have taken our land and our rights, because it is happening again.
Yes, it is through China. Wow. For you to be this passionate and for you to work in the places you've worked and you know, Uganda 4 years, Nigeria was how long?
4 years.
4 years again. You must put in a lot of time and research and money into your craft. Where does that leave your family? Because I feel like you told me you'd gone there for an interview and then all of a sudden you're there for 4 years, man. How that balance, man?
That balance.
If it's even there.
There's no balance.
There's no balance.
I think it's important to have real conversations.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's no balance. In fact, one of the things when I went through a difficult time in Uganda is that I came to a place where I understood also I had lacked balance, where I had put my energy in my career, grew very fast, but I didn't know simple things like even how to date. So I haven't been on a proper date for a very long time. And a lot of times I then realized even my conversations when, say, I even meet a guy, I think they probably found my conversations boring because I wanted to tell them, I work, I can get you a meeting with so-and-so. And then I didn't even understand a man that a lot of times when I meet a man, my work was my conversations must have felt like I'm competing with them.
Right.
So I'm trying to prove to a man that what you do, I do it twice better.
Yeah.
So yes, and for me, I had to learn all over again how to have relationships with people. That also, again, it's not about me. Listen to people and to understand the role that I have as a woman and the role that we have, that men have, and to even understand things like, even when you have a man, in my head, I used to be like, I did everything for him, you know. And for me, in my head, I thought expressing love to a man is to show him how much I love him through my own love language. I didn't even understand men want respect. It's simple. When a man is around me, he wants to feel that he is needed. It's not to show off how I'm probably more powerful. So there is sometimes, if you're not careful, there will be an imbalance. So for all those years, I never, and also because of the traveling, I never got into a relationship. And it wasn't, it wasn't really, yes, I met people and I had people propose. At one time I was even engaged, but I kept on pushing the wedding date because in my mind I'm like, I need to do this project. And until the man was like, I think you are not ready for marriage. Go do your thing. And then when you're ready, come back. But I think my major problem then is that I had not found my purpose. The mistake we make is that we think purpose is career. So if I have a good job, it means I have found my purpose. But actually, that was not my purpose. It was centered around my purpose, but I had not found it. So outside, I looked very successful, but I still had my own demons in me that were bugging me and giving me pressure. You still need to do more. You still need to prove yourself. You still need to do certain things so that people will love you and accept you. Until the day my best day in my life is the day I found God, and the next one when I found my purpose. And when you find God and not a religion, you do find your purpose.
Right.
You do understand your purpose. It makes you relax. In fact, if you look at my photos from then, you will notice I glow more. I've been now looking younger. I'm just relaxed. I used to be a boss who would be like, this needs to be done by, but now I'm a bit more relaxed, and I realize if this person can't do this thing, I'm not going to talk about it. I'll try and help you. Eventually, I'll just get someone else. Maybe you're not the one who was meant to do it. And life becomes a bit more, actually not a bit, very relaxed. Life si ya kustruggle na kufight, by the way. God wants us to enjoy life. And things just begin to come easier. The money comes, the right relationships come. When you truly understand your call, your relationships with people is much better. Remember, you can't give people what you don't have. And healed people heal people. So I begin to find that the circles, the people around me are also now healed people, because I can easily recognize healed people. I can tell them from afar. My relationships are very rich. My business is very different. My staff don't work. Before I would be, my first meeting would be at 6:30 a.m. There's a gentleman there who used to know me at Serena. He used to make for me this special called Mount Kenya. His name was Matthew, but he has now since left Serena. But he knew me when he would see me. Sometimes I would sit by the pool because it's heated, just watching the water and everything. I'm there. 6:30, I'm there. And I'm working until 11. I'm expecting my staff to work like me. Now I've learned, my staff have children. I know their children. And at 4, my staff, in fact, most of them work from home. So because I believe in work balance, I want them to have time for their children. I want them to be healthy. I don't call them for work on Saturday and Sunday unless a client has an emergency. And so I'm a better person, I'm a better boss, and I teach the gospel better with a lot of freedom, because I have found myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That level of self-awareness. What was your hardest struggle, growing up, and just transitioning and you healing? Was it self-esteem? Was it imposter syndrome? Was it what did you struggle with, do you think? Mm. 'Cause you look so confident.
I
I'm
know,
trying to
yeah.
figure out
Looks
if
can.
you've always been this confident. Kutoka ukiwa
I've
mtoto.
always been confident, but I
Awesome.
based my confidence sometimes on the wrong things.
Right.
And again, imposter syndrome is
It's real.
real.
Yeah.
Even until today,
Yeah.
I still have to. By the way, this is a journey. So yes, I found myself, but there are times where I still have to go back. I remember when I was in Nigeria and something major happened, something big, and I still had to go and look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, God, remind me who I am, that these things are real, that I deserve them. And there's a way people I've seen, especially on social media, instead of us celebrating each other, we want to tear people down. I saw it the other day, a young lady who is in arts. She got her fame, yes, through TikTok videos, but the government gave her a position. And I was like, instead of tearing this girl down, we should be standing with her, encouraging her. We can't be saying we want to see youth getting jobs, and when they actually do, we tear them down. We then give the system another excuse why they should not give the youth positions. And already she's going to face challenges. So let those challenges not come from us. Let's support her. Let's reach out and speak and encourage her. And there is and that thing really takes you down, so that even when you're sitting in meetings, especially when I was younger, and I remember people sometimes on social media would really try to tear me down. How did she get that job? I don't know why people always want to find out why. And I'm like, did I ask you how you got your job? And some jobs, especially in government, by the way, people think people just get those jobs anyhow. People have done homework on you. Mpaka they know your great grandmother, your phone calls, your behavior. Some jobs really you must have a certain kind of lifestyle for you to get certain jobs.
Fit into the system.
Exactly. And that system, by the way, to keep it going, it requires people who have discipline. There is something that you must have for you to actually still be in government. But people just want to tear you down. And sometimes you even sit in meetings. And I remember one time CNN called me for an interview. They wanted to interview me about my business. And when they called, I was hesitant. And I listened because I was like, is this a prank call? And later I did the interview and I asked the producer, did you see what people are saying about me on social media? I was trending and people were saying stuff like it's fake. How does somebody just get a job in Nigeria and work with government? These things are lies. And so actually that time it wasn't Nigeria. It was the job that I had with TNA. And so this girl is like, we saw what was. And so I was so hesitant even while doing the interview thinking, wow, is this for real? And it's something that you have to then learn how to build your own confidence and know who you are, so that no matter what the world tells you, you believe and you still continue pushing on.
What was that journey for you? So young girl, just got into the media. You're reporting business. You're a news anchor. How do you transition from there to PR and communication? To you got into the media when the media haikuwa na sifa mzuri, for you at that age.
Friday tulikuwa tukwa gazeti ingine hapo tu stories zetu.
Maze. Man, like how was that time for you in the media? And then how did you transition to PR and communications? Is it something you planned in advance, or you just sort of
I
stumbled
planned.
into it?
So I
Okay.
used to walk around I&M building and tell my mom, one day I'll work there. From when I was a child, 5 years, mind you, I got saved when I was 5 years old. And I used to even sit and my mom would ask me, what are you doing? I'm like, Mom, I'm practicing for my interviews. One day people will know me and I will be having interviews. I used to practice for this. I used to practice, and even when I would walk in the streets, I used to tell my mom, do you know one day all these people will know me? And I used to tell my dad, I'll run a business. And I would be like, and one day I'll have a business and I'll buy for you. I'd tell my mom, I'll buy you a house, I'll take care of you. And then when I'm after age 40, I will marry and now settle down with my children. And I was very, very young. And so even I remember when I was joining KTN, I wrote on which was my first job, and I really pushed to get it. So I wrote on my CV and I said, I want to be the best in Africa. And when I won the Diageo Award, which you mentioned, and I was like, hey, he knows me, thank you. So when I won that award, that no other Kenyan had ever won, I was like, okay, I've made it. And I was here to build my name, to build my brand, and to get the networks to prepare me for my business. Mind you, when I was working at KTN, I was very clear. So I didn't do things like asking, when I would interview people, asking for money and things like that, Tuma Fair and things like that, because I knew I wanted to build a network with them, and my businesses would come from them. So my first clients, people like Senator Tabitha Karanja, are people who I met by interviewing, and they're the ones who stood with my business and gave me long-term contracts and gave me advice. She was a mother client. I thank God for her. I met people like Vimal. Till today, Vimal still, whenever I need help with, or if I have even an event and I need to bring big names, will be like, I'm busy, but I will come, because he understands what it means for my business. And we've walked that journey with him, from having the idea, starting. People like even James Mwangi. I built a relationship with him when I was a journalist. And one day I did a story and he had so much respect for what I had done. They had to call a press conference. And then from there, he started assisting me, advising me. So I knew that I was not going to be at KTN for very long. And I wanted bigger. I had a show called Enterprise Kenya, and I was beginning to feel I want to do Enterprise East Africa.
Right.
But then it didn't make commercial sense for them. So I left. But by then, I had started having relationships on the sides.
Right.
So my business had started growing. So I sold my car, put it as capital for my business, and started my PR company. I needed office space. I met a lady called Njeri Rionge. She had office space at the junction. I told her, in exchange for office space, let me handle your PR, and then you give me an office space. And when I started, I was the everything, the tea girl, but the business grew faster than I expected. Had to hire. Some things you learn on the job. One day look at your account, you're like, I would call the bank, where did that money? And I have a very good bank manager until today. He's been promoted, but I still call him, and he's the one who would advise me from Equity Bank. His name is Kiboti. I'm like, oh my God. And he'd be like, Cynthia, do you have an accountant? Because I'd keep on calling. I'm like, I'm seeing money. Where is this money coming from? I can't keep up. It's like, hire an accountant. So I started learning things on the business, on the job, as the business was expanding. And I'm grateful that I had the space to make mistakes. You make mistakes. Even when I tell my story, it might sound beautiful and nice, but you make so many mistakes on the way. And you have to face the courage to learn from them, make the mistakes. And that's why sometimes I'm like, even when we see people make mistakes, we don't need to put it on social media
No.
and make fun. This is a part of life.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad these days. I see us putting young people on social media trying to do things that I know even when I did, I made those mistakes. We make them afraid of keeping on and trying again and again.
Yeah.
And the reality of life is we all make mistakes. We learn from those mistakes and we move on. And sometimes we refuse to learn the first time, second time, we maybe learn the third time.
Yeah.
That is part of life and growth. I think it's important that we accept real life and how it looks like.
What does a PR and communication company do?
So a PR and communication, I think people just like saying, "Iyo ni PR too, iyo ni PR." They think like that's sugarcoating things.
Yeah. And why is it important to a business?
Yes. So people, PR is about public relations. It's about having relationships. Now, every business has two customers. You have your internal customers and you have the external customers, and you have stakeholders. And all of them, because of the different interests that they have, we have to communicate to them in a completely different way and make them feel that their interests are covered. This is like even in politics.
Yeah,
You'll probably vote for someone who you feel will cover your interests.
Yeah.
Same thing with business. And what keeps businesses going is not even money. It's the relationships. There are things people will do in business for the relationship. You probably go to your barber for the relationship and will follow them. Even me, it's barber, as you can see. And you will follow them whichever salon they go to because of the relationship. Same thing with businesses. Relationships are very, very crucial. And for us, the reason why we even work with government is so that we can also offer that relationship we have with governments to our clients. So if you're chasing something in government, it's easier for us because for me, I know most of the CSs, they're just a phone call away.
Yeah.
I can just push for my client and say, hey, we have this. We have, like right now, I have a client, there's a major conference going on in Mombasa. I don't need to sit there. I just need to make phone calls and have my staff take care of things and what based on the relationships that I have and pull strings for my clients. So my work is to make sure that the relationships of my clients with their stakeholder improves, with the government is improving, with the media is improving, with their internal customers, that's their staff, is improving. And also now, PR has changed so far that we also have to let our clients know what are the opportunities that are coming up, even in business.
Right.
And so that's why people like working with a company like ours, because we are in government and we know things to come 5 years, 10 years from now, and can tell you the opportunities. So PR is about building relationship. We'll come up with your communication strategy. It's not just about booking interviews. We even sometimes you have to sit for your clients. You even sit when they're coming up with their strategic meetings or for the company, so that even you understand how to communicate that strategy to their staff and also to the other stakeholders. So it's much bigger than what people sometimes think, that our work is to come up with stories.
I knew PR was the like one of the biggest departments in a company when Mark Zuckerberg he moved his office to the PR department.
Yes, yes.
Office. He sits in the PR department.
Because you have the heart, you feel the heartbeat of everybody.
Yeah.
You feel the heartbeat of the staff. You feel the heartbeat of your customers. You're the one who can advise your client on the next big decision they need to make that can make them bigger or that can bring their downfall. If you look at even who loses an election, it says they didn't communicate well. If you look at businesses, it's just people can have great products, but they don't know how to communicate. And the market tells you, we didn't know even this product exists.
Sasa, mimi ni hustler, mimi ni SME, mimi ni upcoming entrepreneur. I really want to work with Cynthia Nyamai, lakini budget ya serikali siwezi fika.
Ni sawa. Because actually there's no one client who pays the same.
Yeah,
every
for
client has different needs. Every client is at a different level.
Oh, yeah,
so we work with, I look for relationships more than the money.
Right.
So there are businesses where you can see this one is going places. They will bring other advantages
down
to
the road.
my business and in my life other than the money. So ours is tailor-made. And
Right.
also I started a business, so I really know.
Yes.
And also, to be honest, sometimes it's better working with SMEs. They are very committed and not over comfortable. So they're actually the ones who pay on time more than the bigger companies. Yeah. The bigger companies are even so strict because they know they're established. They're the ones who tell you payment is after 60 days. And you find actually they pay exactly after 90 days. A small business is very committed. They're still very clear about their goal. They want to succeed. They know why communication is very important. They're the ones who actually pay on time.
How does your day look like?
My day.
From morning till evening. Like, how do you plan your day? How does it look like?
So my day is I have complicated days. Let me say my day starts at midnight. So I hold online prayers every day from midnight. Right. I have a group called RIG East Africa, and we just started by prayers. We would pray online on Instagram. And we started last year. We're less than 1 year old, but now we are more than 2,000 people.
Wow.
So we have prayers at midnight.
Right.
And then I will probably sleep at around 3 a.m. I'm up depending on how my day looks like, but most times by 7 I'm up. People are always asking, when do you sleep? So I work in the morning, run my business in the morning. If I have meetings, have the meetings. I prefer these days to have more online meetings, but some things you have to have physical. And then in the afternoon I do my other stuff, and a lot of ministry, sometimes meeting people, praying with them, and then in the evening I will still have my last meeting today is at 9 p.m. It starts at 9 p.m. and when I finish I'll go have my midnight prayers. But what I do in between, I find gaps where I can sleep for even a power nap for like 15 minutes. So a lot of times actually 7 p.m. I will take a nap and sleep until 8. And that power nap really helps.
Talking to your health people, you do know the importance of sleep.
Yes, I sleep.
Yeah,
I sleep.
So how do you structure your sleep? Because
I sleep. So those power naps really help.
Right.
They really do help. And then there are times where I decide, like on Monday, I'll finish what I need to do early. And in the afternoon, I'm resting. And rest is different for different people.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, rest, I can, so long as I'm away from people and noise. I'm an introvert. So long as I'm away from people and noise and inwardly thinking, and that gives me rest. Rest is, I've come to realize rest is different.
for different people.
Yes, yeah.
Man, how... Okay, I know religion is big for you. I was about to ask you how you ground yourself, but clearly it's Bible. That's
Bible is, you know, the heart of a man is actually wicked, and we are wishy-washy. That's why politicians can announce something this week. Tomorrow they say, sikusema hivyo, I didn't say that. And I don't blame them. You know, human beings can be wishy-washy. We want to make a decision, then people come and influence us. So I found the best way to make decisions is to just read the Bible and follow what the Bible says.
Sorry, you just said decision. It just
struck
something.
Yes.
What's the most difficult decision you've ever had to make in your career, where you were like, like you were okulala for like 2-3 days?
I think difficult decisions come every day.
Especially for
I think like going to Nigeria,
yeah.
and I went there actually to pray. I was like, let me pray. And then 2 weeks, I was also there for training. 2 weeks, I was like, let me pray for this nation. Because when I was praying, I could see from last year, December, things are going to be bad for Nigeria.
Right.
And then now to have to go to the party that I worked with in Nigeria was APC. And then God was like, go tell them that I know what they're about to plan and do is wrong. To go tell people you've worked with,
Oh my goodness.
what you guys want to do is wrong. It's difficult. And you're like, by the way, these are powerful men. This is government.
Yeah.
To have to even teach people online and say, people, let's pray. This is coming. And people were like, we already know who is going to be announced as, and you know, prophets and people really come up during election period to tell. And a lot of times I give the message opposite of what other people in church are saying. There are times I find, and people in church come and say, but by the way, Cynthia, this is a pastor who has been in ministry for 10 years. Who are you? And I have to go back and ask God, remind me again, who are you? Am I doing the right thing? And sometimes it sounds like later on is when, like in Nigeria, when the president was announced, people were like, oh, what you said was true.
Right.
But by that time, people have hit you, and every time, even as you're saying, you're like, oh God, I'm saying opposite of what people are saying. I'm speaking against personal friends. I am saying things against who people I will have to meet tomorrow. But I've come to realize also there's a certain level of respect that people begin to have when they see that you're very solid, your foundation is strong, and you're not speaking out of your needs, but you're speaking from an authority, a strong authority. And people cannot deny God. There is a way, even when you speak, even if somebody says, I don't believe in God, there's a way God moves that people will see your God is the true and living God. And they know you're not speaking out of money. Money doesn't bother me. And so there's a way people begin to see your life and they respect what you're saying, even though it's against them. And they know you're not against them. You're just against their actions because I believe in God, and so I do what God says.
I'll be very honest, especially with our current government.
Yes.
Nowadays, when we are talking about real issues, let's say, you know, for the countries, the ones facing our country.
Yeah.
Nikisikia mtu tu amesema, let's pray.
National prayers.
Man, and I'll just be very honest.
Yes.
My background, I come from a family where religion has really messed up our family.
Yes.
Like, you know, those families where hata watu wakiwa wagonjwa hawaendi hospitali, that type of background. So I'm very, very careful about someone who talks about church all the time.
Yes.
So how have you struck that balance? Because I honestly want to believe that you're someone who says, let's wake up at midnight and pray for our nation. Yeah. But at 7 a.m., you're in someone's office, kicking the door and telling
after
them...
this, I have a meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, I work.
Yeah.
And I think people want to sell religion and don't want to do the actual work of reading the Bible and living a disciplined life. When we read from Genesis 1, when God was creating us, God said that we should have dominion, so we should be the one running the world. The church should be running the world. And also that we should be fruitful. We are expected to work. So my work is not only to pray. One thing I believe is that anything you see in the physical, a spiritual transaction already took place. So my work is to make sure midnight I am praying so that God guides me during the day as I am working. And but people want to be lazy. One of the things, like if you are join us for midnight prayers, I don't put out messages for sadaka. I don't believe that ministry work is my place to make money. I believe that God has given me brains and the opportunities, and I tell God, I say, because I am serving you and working for you, I expect that as I go out looking for business, your favor goes ahead of me. And when I get clients, because I tell people I am born again and they know, then my work should be found 10 times better, like Daniel in the Bible. People want to read the Bible and use God as an excuse. And people have been painting the wrong picture of God. God is not lazy. God does not bring miracles. People talk about miracle money. There is nothing like miracle money. Work. What God will do as I am working is he'll give me favor with Phil. That Phil will be like, okay, Cynthia, let me give you more business because I like what you have done. He will make sure that my payments will come on time because God also knows my money goes to ministry. I pay for my ministry. And I believe that's the way people should be doing things. If you're going to start a ministry, see, it is God's ministry. See, we tell people it's God's work. Let God pay for that ministry. Stop asking people, lying to people. God provides. And then you, in your ministry, you are now disturbing people. Toa mia moja, I tell you what God is saying. Then that God of yours is not the one in the Bible. So you are lying. And I'm very strict. I'm very, in a way, militant about things. And I even tell my followers, you must show, if you truly carry God, you must show evidence in everything you do in your life that you carry God. Yeah. Wow. But people want to be lazy.
So and laziness, like people don't want to actually find God by themselves. They want to be told what to
and
do.
Then to pay for that service. Yes.
And that makes sense because a while back I was reading statistics and I think in Nairobi alone, Nairobi peke yake, there are over 4,000 registered churches.
Wow.
Na ile usherati kwa Nairobi.
Exactly.
So wasa wako busy. Watu wako biashara.
Watu wamefanya, by the way, ministry ya Mungu ikue biashara. But also mimi ublame wafuasi because wafuasi pia hawataki kusoma Bible. And I tell people simple things like, when the reason I don't ask people for offering is that when I read the Bible, I don't see Jesus telling people come, and then he told them first to toa sadaka. If anything, I see Jesus feeding people. Exactly. And we have been giving the wrong picture of God. And I love God so much. I get so angry when people give the wrong picture of God. And a lot of times people will say things and I talk about it. I say, no, that is not my heavenly Father. I have a personal relationship with God. So I know God. I know things he would never ask human beings to do because it's not in the Bible. How do you know God? You read scripture. You spend time praying and you spend time even listening to God. And a lot of times people come and tell me things and I tell them, let me teach you how to pray. Our prayers at midnight is to read scripture and to teach people how to pray and have a relationship with God. And sometimes people leave when I tell them that because what they want is, I want to give you money, Cynthia, give me a prophetic word. And I'm like, my God is not for sale. And I hate it to the core. I hate it. I will never stand for it. I will never stand with ministers who do that kind of business because God is so loving. God is not about the things that religion has been selling to us. And I know it because I read the Bible. I have had experiences with God. And so I want everyone to have those experiences so that we stop lying about God. So for me, that is where I stand with God. Know about the person you're talking about. Yes.
I have loved this conversation because it has just touched on every aspect of a human being. You know, you've shown us the road, the journey to building your business. It's not easy. At the same time, you're really, really into God, and just how to balance these two. And you've touched on family, your personal life. Like this was a wholesome conversation. How was it for you growing up? What type of family did you grow up in? Was it a religious family?
Yes, I grew up in a Christian home.
Yeah.
My parents on Fridays, which now I find myself Fridays, I have Kesha in my house.
Yeah.
On Fridays, my family, my dad and mom used to move around with projectors and show people Jesus movies. And so one day in our house, they were showing people about the rapture. I was like, I'll not be left behind. I cried. I was 5 years. I was like, I don't want to be left behind. And I gave my life to Christ. And I grew up, but I grew up in a home where also my father, until today, teaches Bible and has the expectation for us to read the Bible. And we have Bible study as a family, my sisters and their husbands. And we have Bible study online once a week. We have learned how to read Bible. But that being said, I was still a naughty child. I had a normal childhood. So my mom used to give talks on how to raise a strong-willed child because I was very strong-willed, extremely, with a soft voice. But my mom would come home in the evening. She's like, is this my house? I've changed things in the house. I have done my own things. And even when she'd spank me, I'd tell her, it's okay, you can spank me. The pain will go. But I did what I wanted to do. I was such a naughty child. Even when I gave my life to Christ, I remember one time I got baptized, and then the next day, the headmistress came to class to tell I went to a Christian school to tell my teacher. She was so excited. She said, do you know Musanya? Her name is Mrs. Kiageri. She's still a very good friend and a mother to me. She said, tells my teacher, I was in standard 6. Do you know Musanya yesterday was baptized? And then the teacher says, really? I've just punished her. So I was a normal child. Even as an adult, I still found I had that struggle of, I was born in a Christian family. So there are things that were expected of me. There are practices that I had. Then you discover the world and you're like, some of these things are actually very good. I like it. But in front of your parents, you're someone different. But then that conversations I had with my family, and I love my dad. He's very practical. Because there are things I would say, okay, Dad, and my mom, I remember one time they asked me, do you take alcohol? I said, yes. As an adult, I have made a decision that, yes, I will be having alcohol, and yes, I do have a few glasses of wine. And my dad brings the Bible and he says, okay, just remember the Bible says, but you're now an adult. So I have made bad decisions, good decisions. I have grown, and I think I needed them, because now when people come to me, and even men and women of God, and they're like, Cynthia, I like talking to you because you don't judge me. I think those things really taught me how God is love. Religion teaches people that God loves you because you're good. I have people in my ministry who I know some things that they are doing that the church would throw them away and say, you're very sinful. But I know they love God. They are yearning for God, and God will work on their weaknesses. Sometimes we want to work on our weaknesses, but it is actually the work of God. And God loves me as I am. So it's been a beautiful journey, ups and downs. I'm a totally normal human being, and that's why when I look at my life, I can never boast, because I know it is people around me who have built me to be where I am. That's why I'm mentioning names, who have seen me when I'm troubled and helped me, and also it's God. I have nothing to boast about. Yes.
This is the first time we've met,
Yes.
and the what I know about Cynthia is what I've heard out there and what I've seen online.
Yes.
And to be very honest, you walk in, so I'm like, this is a woman of God. We have to behave. We have to talk to her in a certain way. And, you walked in, the first thing we offered you was cake. And you're like, hey, Philip, this is bikini season.
Thank you.
You're not
Easter.
It's Easter.
We need to wear our bikinis.
She's one of us. She's one of us. And, just testament to what you've just said, like, people don't feel judged around here. And thank you for that, because I think that is what has made a lot of people run away from church
Yeah.
and religion, because I'm human,
Yes.
you know, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and there's no one who's perfect. So when I walk to your church or to your space, you know, do I feel accommodated? Do I not? You know, and thank you for that, and thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.
What's your everyday mantra? You sound like someone who's at peace. Like I can feel like the peace just oozing around you.
I love my peace.
Yeah.
But I still love to conquer. So for me, every day I came, I saw, I conquered. I love conquering.
That's your mantra.
Yeah,
That's
I
your
love
everyday.
when I see something,
Right.
I'm like, I know I can bring a change. I will do the impossible.
Right.
I like doing the impossible. I'm bored by doing simple things that might just give me a name. I want the impossible. I want to conquer. Those are the things that move me, and just, yes, I love conquering.
Okay. Okay. I came, I saw, I
conquered.
conquered. I want to end on those words because
Thank you.
those are amazing. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having
I am
me.
sure you will be one of the most requested to come back. I am very sure. This conversation,
I'll be
make
happy
sure.
to. You're so easy to talk to.
Thank you.
And even your team. So I'll be happy to. And then I want to come after Easter to eat that cake.
The cake will be there.
Bikini things will be done.
Yeah, bikini season will be over.
We can
sana.
eat the cake
Karibu
again.
sana. Man, guys, continue watching, subscribing. I hope you loved our class today. I think we have had an amazing teacher who's just talked to us about business and life in general, and I love that. She was very open, very candid. Subscribe on Becoming CEO on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Becoming CEO. Again, long gone not placed for this amazing space. Asante sana. Amazing apartment. Thank you. This na story ingine. Asante sana.
Asante.
Okay.
Lakini unieke kwa movie yako next.
Na
nimesema hapa publicly.
Kabisa.
Watu wakikosa kuniona, they'll know it's your fault. Mimi nimejitolea kwa kazi.
Wewe wacha nikwambie, after this tunaongea sana kwa sababu hiyo movie inahitaji a lot of PR and communication.
Thank you. Lakini unieke actor. Kwani siwezi act?
Si sasa unajua si tunatumia the face, then tunatumia networks. Unasema ni networks.
Kabisa. Mimi niko.
Unataka role ya mtu gani?
Ya mchungaji.
Hapana, siwezi kupatia hiyo. Tunakujua hivyo.
Ya hustler.
Nakupea ya villain.
Ni saa villain, mimi naweza kuwa villain mzuri sana.
That's the one we'll go for. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.